Hello, everyone. This is Whitney Will from Starheart Astrology, and I'm here today to talk to you about the week from February 16th until, what is it? February 23rd. So in this video, I am recording for both Instagram Live and YouTube. So if you want to see the charts of some of these things, you can head over to my YouTube channel and I will include some of the charts. Otherwise, I'm going to be talking about the transits this week, what we're experiencing now, and really the story of how things kind of wind down, because we're in a really, really tense moment yesterday and today. It's a really intense full moon. So let's just get into it. And I want to set the scene a little bit for what happened yesterday. And what happened yesterday is that depending on the method of calculating the nodes, so that's the caveat, but the sun squared the nodes. And when we have a planet square the nodes, we come into this profound crossroads of whether something belongs to the past, whether it belongs to the future, how you are going to integrate both the past and the future with that planet, with that archetype. And with the sun, we're kind of talking about our purpose here. I think of the sun as kind of like our project, right? Like what we're working on, what we're here to do, that sense of being connected to our own vitality, to our own bliss, to our own sense of purpose. And when the sun squares the nodes, we are at this profound crossroads of questioning our identity. And now it's going to be different depending on the role that the sun plays in your chart, if you're in a solar perfection year, but there's a lot of tension. Because we have these two squares and we're at the crossroads of the past and the future. Now, this also means we're in between eclipse seasons. So we're at the midway point between the eclipses that occurred on November 19th and December 4th, and the ones that we're headed towards on April 30th and May 15th. And then, right, it's also not just this moment of standstill, but the sun is moving closer towards the north node. So we're kind of moving away from this spiritualizing, past-oriented, more reflective south node into the more busy material north node. And as I was thinking about this, I started thinking about the nodes, and I've never heard them expressed this way, but it was helpful for me to think about it. But it doesn't come from anywhere besides my own mind. So, and that is that the south node feels an awful lot like a new moon. It's kind of has this emptiness. It has this spiritualizing quality. You don't know whether you're at the beginning or the end, right? It's a liminal kind of empty place where you encounter yourself, you encounter the unconscious, but almost reach beyond it into deeper spiritual truths. And the north node is like a full moon. It's like everything's out there, everything's embodied, everything is manifested, it's busy, it's happening, it's engaged in the world, it's fully committed. And so the kind of busyness of the north node and the more ascetic nature of the south node feel like they're mirrored in the lunar cycle. Well, so what's the point of all of that? The point of all of that is that if that holds any water, then the sun squaring the nodes and moving towards the north node is akin to the first quarter moon phase. And the first quarter moon phase is where the rubber meets the road, where the crisis happens, where sacrifices are made and priorities are established between what we really have the energy to put our time into and what's not gonna make it this time, because we have other choices, there's other priorities. We can't bring everything that we can think in our beautiful dreaming psyche, in our unconscious. Not everything can be brought forth into the world because it takes a tremendous amount of effort to move things into form. And that's the Saturn work. And so, right, we're at this point of the crunch of all of that. Now, we're also at a full moon today. So we have a Leo full moon. And this full moon is square to the nodes. So we have the sun at 27 degrees of Aquarius. We have the moon at 27 degrees of Leo. And then we have the nodes at 27 degrees of Scorpio and Taurus. So we have all 4 fixed signs kind of locked into this dynamic, asking the question, and the sun's going to be this larger sense of what we're trying to do, of what we're trying to bring in the world, of who we're trying to be. And the moon is asking us to remember that we too are participants, not just in the life of the mind, but in the life of the body, in the life of our relationships, that sustaining our bodies through joyful play of Leo, through really being immersed in our experience in the Leonine way, that we can't fully engage in the Aquarian question of how to be a person in the world if we are only engaging in that question by trying to transcend the things that make us people in the world. So this supercharged full moon that's like, you've been slogging through Saturn land and you need to have fun and you need to have vitality, and joy brings vitality into the body. And don't forget that. Oh, and you have to reconcile that with the story that you're writing with your life, with the stuff you're trying to balance, with the difference between letting go and moving on and gathering and building new possibilities. So this really tense kind of moment that's very exciting, except for I feel like we're exhausted. Are we exhausted? Yeah. And then to add another layer to this of intensity, of drive, of passion, we have the first exact conjunction of Mars and Venus also happening in the same moment. And so while these are not aspecting this full moon, the nodes, right, that they're in the chart of the full moon, which means we're going to feel it over the next 2 weeks, but we would be feeling this Mars-Venus conjunction over the next 2 weeks anyway, because we are in the middle of the month-long conjunction of Mars and Venus. And so the way that I'm calculating that is to say that on February 11th, Mars came within a degree of Venus. And because Venus is still moving very slowly coming out of her retrograde, she's much more, her speed is very similar to that of Mars. So they're actually walking together through the end of Capricorn. So they form their first exact conjunction, and Mars actually is moving faster, and so it's going to overtake Venus a little bit. But they're going to stay within a degree through the rest of Capricorn and into Aquarius. And on March 5th, they're going to make their second exact conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius. Venus will overtake Mars, and within a week, so by March 12th, she'll be more than a degree away from Mars. But we really get February 11th to March 12th, a full month of Venus-Mars conjunctions, which is incredible desire. And with Mars exalted in Capricorn, incredible drive, right? We are pushing, we are working so hard, even if, right? I've also been talking to people that feel like they're stuck, but nobody is stuck because they're not doing anything, because they're not containing anything. As I like to say, right? There is no emptiness. If something is not happening in an area of your life, it's because it is filled with something, right? Things happen when we create emptiness, right? Even if we're not seeing the external things change, even if we're not feeling the physical effort that we're putting into things, we are wrestling with things internally with this Mars-Venus conjunction, because this is the lovers in the sky, tangled in the embrace between desire, between anger, right? Mixing in, making that sacred, potent, fertile vessel of creation from the destruction, from the anger, from everything roiling about in our bodies and in our hearts. So we're really in the soup, and they're ruled by Saturn. So it's not like, they want big things. They want long lasting things. They want relationships that are sustainable, that meet their expectations, and they're willing to work for it. So it's not casual. It's not casual. We have a month of like, it's still not casual, right? I mean, I think, yeah. So that's where we stand on this Wednesday with the sun square the nodes, with this Leo full moon, with the Mars-Venus conjunction exact. It's a really intense full moon. Another aspect that is perfecting, that perfects tomorrow, is Jupiter sextile Uranus. And while I normally don't spend too much time talking about sextiles because it's like, oh, that was nice, and then it passes, it's significant because Jupiter and Uranus are slow-moving planets. This is the only hit of this transit. It's a nice little, I hope it's like it's just like an IV of inspiration, of energy, of, right? It's the second wind. We've got the buoyancy and the faithfulness of Jupiter and Pisces, inspired by the innovation or the restlessness of Uranus and Taurus. And so we get this sense that something deeper is happening and that all the work that we're putting into it matters and that it's going to be okay and that it's going to be good. So I really like that one. Then on Friday, we have the sun move into Pisces. And this is a very different Pisces season than we have had for the last few years, because for 2021 and 2020, Jupiter was in Saturn's signs, and Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces. And so we would look to Jupiter to see, okay, how is the sun's time in Pisces likely to go? Jupiter in Saturn signs is a little bit apologetic because it's making the best of a bad situation. Now, Jupiter in his own signs can do whatever he wants. So we get much more of a pure expression of Pisces. We get the faithfulness, we get the coming back together, we get the unifying fluidity of Pisces in its raw form without paying homage to Saturn. Now we still have all the personal planets, Venus and Mars still in Capricorn. We have Mercury in Aquarius, so they're all still ruled by Saturn. We're not quite free of Saturn, but I'm hoping that this Pisces season will be a balm where you feel the deeper purpose, where you feel connected, and it should kind of lift us out of winter in a different way than we have been in the past. And so we get kind of everything clustered right around them. And that's really what the rest of the week looks like. We have a gentle, pleasing moon in Libra. Over the weekend, she heads into Scorpio on Monday. That feels a little bit crunchy to have a Monday with the moon in Scorpio. Sometimes can be like a little bit of a rough start to the week. By next Wednesday, we have Mercury clearing the shadow of its retrograde. So we have one more week of kind of combing through the rest of the stuff that was left over from the Mercury retrograde that we're still dealing with, that we're still integrating. So wherever that falls in your chart can kind of help show where that is. But by next Wednesday, we're onto new territory. And especially because what happens on Thursday is that Mercury completes a square with Uranus. So it's like, we're like moving through the old territory and then it hits Uranus and we make a hard left turn and there are surprises in store. So I feel like to kind of wrap up this week, we've got this big culmination of a lot of things coming together, of a lot of pressure. If you can have fun, don't hurt yourself on this full moon. But right, remember that your body, that your mind, that your heart, that joy and fun and this good stuff, right? Like obviously we can pursue pleasure in a destructive way, but pleasure in itself is not destructive. In fact, fun and joy are sustainable for all the hard work that we're doing everywhere else. You don't get bonus points for who can suffer the most. So have some fun on this full moon. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the listener question that I got this week. So if you want to see the chart for the person who asked this question, you can check out my YouTube video where I will share the chart for this question. So I got a question from a person who, as far as I can tell, is an artist of some kind, right? Spends their work in the world creating art. And this question is about financial viability. And so, right, the short version of the question was, how am I going to pay rent in the next 6 months? And the long version of the question is more complicated than that. So I'm just going to talk about kind of what I see. And this person actually asked me this question a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to talk about it today because in their chart, in the second house of money, finances, and resources, they have a Venus-Mars conjunction at around 16 degrees of Virgo. And today, we have a Venus-Mars conjunction at about nearly 17 degrees, but 1653, I think, of Capricorn. And so it forms a perfect trine from the fifth house, from this person's fifth house of creativity, of self-expression, to the second house of finances. Now, the second house can be how somebody pays, how somebody makes money with Venus in the second house. That can have to do with aesthetics, with art, shows up in a number of different ways. Yeah, when we have a Venus-Mars conjunction, there's this fixation of desire and creativity. And so we really have the support, especially today, of a Venus-Mars conjunction in the place of creativity, in the place of art making, but also in the place of getting real. Now, natally, they have Capricorn in the sixth house. Let's see, whole system here. In the chart. So Capricorn is in the sixth house, the place of hard work, the place of chores. People with a lot of Capricorn, risings with a lot of Capricorn tend to work really, really hard. That's kind of this place of like sometimes ignoring their own needs and really throwing themselves into the work. And so I think the Venus-Mars conjunction from that place, trining Venus-Mars in the second, speaks to the path of this person to create things in as a method of healing, but in ways that are quite laborious. I think there's also something that this person should know just about money in general, is that the financial house in this person's chart is ruled by Mercury. And so this is going to be true for Leo risings and also for Taurus risings that have Gemini in the second house. Whenever Mercury goes retrograde, it's going to affect the instability in that space. Questions are going to come up in that space. And so I have Taurus rising friends that, like, I don't know, something's always happening with their bank account during Mercury retrograde. So that question, right, instead of fiercely wanting to find a long-term solution to that question, this is a question that you are working through again and again. It's mercurial. It will look different, right? That drive for perfection, that drive for purity that Virgo has is going to be reevaluated many, many times, right? Mercury is also the planet of commerce, right? And we've got Mercury in Libra in this chart, right? Also involved in creativity. I mean, there's so many signatures for creativity in this person's chart. So it's completely unremarkable that this person is an artist. And so, right, I think for the next, I guess what I'm feeling like is that the work is to live with the question and also to use the eclipses and the work of the nodes to kind of massage this question. This person is moving into their nodal return. So they have their natal south node in Scorpio and their natal north node in Taurus, and that's where the nodes have just shifted in. So this deep story about life and value, right? Taurus is very concerned with the value of things, the true value of things. there's a kind of full circle chapter return. It's time to update that. And the North Node is right on the midheaven, which means that, right, the answer to this story, the working of this question is part of the life's work to deepen into what is value, how do I make it, how do I concretize it, how do I bring it into material reality. And there's going to be a solar eclipse, or new moon solar eclipse, right at 10 degrees of Taurus, right on this person's midheaven and their North Node, on, oh gosh, I forget if that's the April 30th eclipse. Yeah, it's the April 30th eclipse. So right on there. So right, I think that we get, I call it getting thirsty, but I think we get curious about big transits before they happen, right? We kind of intuitively know. And so, right, an eclipse right on your North Node, right on your midheaven, changes your direction, changes your career, lights it up with this brilliant flash of light. Now you've also had Uranus moving over those things, so creating instability, creating a new vision of the way forward. So I'd say the work at this point is dedicate yourself to your craft and be open to the new visions that are coming. Shedding the fear and the desire to stay safe with the South Node in the 4th house in Scorpio, right? That that piece that eats away, that tells you that the world doesn't want you, or that, right, that you're too strange, that you're too true, that you're too dark, and use your pain and your passion to create things that are soulful and bring them into physical form in this Taurus way, and they will speak for themselves. Okay, I hope that was helpful. That's your midweek check-in. I'm going to upload this video into YouTube, and I'll see you guys next week. Happy full moon.